Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. My name is Vance Bennett, your guest co-host for today's episode. Today, we're talking to the leader who is leading a vibrant change in the Columbus, Ohio art scene with a recent name change and a bold new vision. The Contemporary Theater of Ohio is reimagining what theater can be. My guest today is the incredible Christy Farnbauch. So,
thank you,
Christy,
Vance.
yes, welcome,
Thank you.
welcome.
That's quite an introduction. Thank you.
Well, you know, Texas is not the only place that like to do things big, so does Ohio.
Right?
So, Christy, I really do appreciate you joining us today. We really look forward to learning about, the Contemporary Theater Ohio, and then also what you're doing in your profession to leave a legacy. So why don't we start with and just tell us a little bit about the Contemporary Theater of Ohio?
Sure. Happy to. Thanks, Vance. The Contemporary is a professional theater company based right here in Columbus, whose purpose is to tell stories rooted in the current moment to build empathy. We are a 40-year-old company. We were founded in 1985 as CATCO, the Contemporary American Theater Company. And over the years, and then the pandemic came along, and we'll talk more about that, but that's when we actually, changed our name and got clear about our purpose. And so I often say we're a 40-year-old company, but we kind of act like a 5-year-old startup because it was all different. It's been all different coming out of the pandemic, new leadership, new, whatnot. I know you're going to ask me how I got here, so I'll save some of those questions for that. But in essence, we are a professional theater company that performs stories rooted in the current moment to build empathy. And we do about 5 productions a year for adults at the Rife Center at the corner of State and High downtown. A lot of people don't know there are 2 really lovely small black box theaters on the 4th floor of the Rife Center. And so one space has 200 seats, the other space has 150. And so they're very small and intimate spaces. You're really up close and personal to the action and the actors. And fun pro tip, there's free parking in the Rife Center garage every day after 6 and all day on the weekends. So again, a lot of people don't know that. So if you come down to see us at the Rife Center, you can park for free in the evenings or on the weekends. And then we also do a great deal of educational programming around the city in schools and at the Rife Center, at the McConnell Arts Center, and some Y programs, some after-school programs. So again, we'll probably talk more about that. But we have a whole education arm, which is very important to our mission as well.
All right. And was it the arts that drew you to this area or the educational piece? How'd you get involved with this?
Yeah, so I'm a career-long arts administrator. I grew up in the rural southeastern part of the state. I grew up in Caldwell, which is down by Marietta, Noble County in the rural southeastern part. My little high school had a choir and a band, and so I started playing trumpet when I was 10 and found my way at Otterbein. To Otterbein University. Well, then it was Otterbein College, but now it's Otterbein University to be a music major with a business administration minor. And I really wanted to work in the arts as an administrator. I didn't want to teach, and people thought I might work in a music store. I didn't want to do that. I knew there was something else. And I had an internship the spring of my junior year of college at the Columbus Symphony. And began to learn about this area of arts administration. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. There's this whole, I think a lot of people might not know, there's a whole team of people behind what you see on stage, making that happen every day, right? There are people who are working on marketing and people who are raising money and the production team and the financial people and the IT people and the HR folks. And right, there's a whole team. So I graduated Otterbein and have worked in a variety of arts organizations. I started with a small nonprofit service organization for artists and presenters, performing arts who were touring and coming through Ohio. And then I went to work for the Ohio Arts Council, which is a state agency that funds artists and arts organizations across the state. They have about a $30 million a year budget. And so that's one of our primary funding sources. I worked for them for a long time and then spent all the time with Hilliard Schools doing fundraising and grant writing and whatnot, creating business opportunities, mentorships and places for kids to learn about business. And then took a little stint in the fall of 2009. And I mean, you're a finance guy. You remember what was happening in the fall of 2009 and 2008. It was a
Yeah,
rough time.
a lot of tears.
Right. But I had an opportunity to work with the Jazz Arts Group on a national study of jazz audiences, which had never been done before. It was funded by the Doris Duke Foundation. And I was like, yes, I do want to manage that project. And I will quit my full-time job with benefits and be an entrepreneur. So
Okay.
I did that, and somebody said to me, starting a business in a pandemic or pandemic, but in a recession is a great time. It can only get better and go up, and it did. I did get better, and it grew year over year. And
So
then I had
I was just going, since you started a business and have you always been drawn to leadership, taking the lead because with administration and those type of activities?
I have. Yeah, I'm a good type A, firstborn, all the things.
I'm a firstborn
Um,
myself.
yeah, and fun fact that for my first job out of college, I was an executive director. I was hired as an executive director at 21. I turned 22 a couple of weeks later, but and I had no business being an executive director. But two things had happened. There was a gentleman on the board who taught theater at Muskingum College who took a years-long sabbatical to mentor me. And that was my
Oh,
first
nice.
understanding of the great power and wisdom of having good mentors around you. And I followed a guy who had embezzled money. So you can only go up, Vance. I mean, that's where you start, right?
Yeah.
And then that theme came back around when I started my consulting business called Strategic Links in 2006. And then I worked at part-time, very part-time for a while. And then I took it full-time in 2009, again, during a giant raging recession. Again, you can only go up. It's a theme. You'll see, it's a theme. I'm going to close this loop in a minute.
Okay.
And I did for a while, and then I got a chance to go back to the Ohio Arts Council for a couple of years, and I did that. And then I was actually going to go back into my consulting business full time in about 2015, and some wonderful colleagues came to me and said that NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, was looking for their first executive director. And we were the largest chapter. We worked on advocacy and all kinds of support for women business owners. And I already had a little bit of the entrepreneur bug in my blood, right? So I took that position. It was a great board chair. We did great great work. And then this little thing called a pandemic came along. And and this company, which was Catco at the time, was having a leadership change. Stephen Anderson had been the producing artistic director for about 10 years, and he was going to retire. And I was reading Business First, and I saw an article in Business First that Stephen was retiring and they were going to split his job into two, an artistic director and executive director, which is a very common model in the theater space. And I said to my husband, like, oh, I think that's the job for me, because I had been in and around Catco since the mid 90s. I had done audio description for people in the blind community in the mid 90s. And then they merged somewhere along the way with a children's theater company called Phoenix Theater for Children. And we had been subscribers to that theater for 10 years when my boys were little. And so I thought like this was a full circle moment, right? So I started interviewing in November of 2019, and I was offered this job Friday, March 13th at noon by the board chair. And I was very excited and happy and grateful and all the things. And about 4 o'clock, Stephen, the retiring producing director, called me and said, congratulations, I'm so happy it's you. And I guess I should tell you we're closing the theater tonight
What?
because of the pandemic.
Oh no.
Um, and I said, oh, okay. And by 5 o'clock, we were closed, and we did not make live theater again for 18 months.
Oh
We
wow.
made virtual work. We did a host of other things like everybody did. We were trying to keep some money coming in the door, right? But
Uh-huh.
yeah, we shut down 67 performances and laid off people, and it was a time.
Oh
Again,
wow.
Vance, you can only go up, right? And that
I'm
gets us to
starting to get
today.
there's a theme.
And that gets us today. So nearly 5.5, nearly 6 years ago, I took this position in the beginning of a pandemic. And then, I officially started in April 15th of 2020. And then my co-equal leader, Lita Hoffman, our artistic director, came in August of 2020. So we had a whole new leadership team to work, to think about the next iteration of this company.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? To kind of get everybody moving in the same direction and I guess maybe buying into the game plan, the name change came about. Did you change the mission maybe a little bit? But like, how did you use your leadership skills to kind of, either present that to people in a way that they would want to be a part of it? How did you guys adopt the new vision and mission?
Yeah, for sure. Because after 36 years, right, that's a big deal to change the name, right?
Right.
So the genesis of that was when I was interviewing in the end of 2019 and the very beginning of 2020. I was in a lot of meetings around the community and there was a community vetting committee and I kept asking the people in the committees what differentiated Catco from all the other theater companies in town. There are many. There's a whole theater ecosystem from small community theaters to us, like kind of a mid-sized regional producing professional theater to Broadway, the Broadway series, right? And the tours that come through. And the answer was always, we're the oldest and the biggest. To which I said, so what? At the end of the day, who cares? And it actually wasn't true. As a matter of fact, it wasn't true.
Oh, no.
But that's what community leaders and board members, and that's what I kept hearing, right? So I knew a woman named Haley Boning who runs a company called Story Forge. She's actually based in Columbus and New York City. And I had worked with Haley when I was at NABO Columbus. So again, I call up Haley. I'm like, hey, we need to spend a little time being really clear and strategic about our mission and purpose and our vision and who are we and what are our beliefs and our values. So by the time Lita came in August, I started really right away the moment I got here. And I worked with our board, who's a big voice in this, right? I was like, I think we've got to take this moment to get clear about who we are, what we do, and why it matters, right? Particularly the why.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. We spent about 18 months with Haley and we had lots of conversations with our board, lots of conversations in the community. The acronym, remember, I think I told you, CATCO stood for Contemporary American Theater Company, and it had gotten shortened to CATCO pretty early in the history of this company, but it created a lot of confusion. Like we literally got phone calls. Are you a cat welfare agency? Can I adopt a cat from you? There was chaos kind of ensued, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even though I'd been in the community and in the arts a long time, and lots of other people had, what I realized is we realized that younger people who were maybe new to Columbus were thinking about the growth is coming in, to Columbus very soon. That acronym didn't really mean so much to people. And we pretty quickly discovered it was really important to put contemporary and theater back in the name so that people could be very clear about what we do, right? We do contemporary theater, which really was going back to our roots in a way, Vance. I mean, it was really, let's get back to the contemporary theater part of what we had done in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
So 18 months with Haley, then we needed to turn it over to a graphic design, someone who could help us with the graphic design, the logo, the whatnot of all, put the words that we had developed into some nice pictures and images. And we worked with the firm Nonfiction up in Worthington to help us do that. And through that process, which was another year, they said to us one day, we think you need to change your name. We think you got to get clear about who you are and what you do because, communicating in the world today is very different than it was in 1985, right? I mean, very different, right? Way before social media and all. It's hard to cut through everything now in the media world. So again, with our board and with a lot of data and a lot of planning, a lot of input in the community, we settled on the Contemporary Theater of Ohio. And that was for a couple of reasons. We got contemporary theater back in the name. The of Ohio was a nod to the fact that we are in the capital of the state. So we wanted to plant a flag that we are here in the middle of the state.
Mm-hmm.
I think in time, I'm pretty confident that of Ohio will fade away. Our shortened version is the contemporary. We go by that a lot, just the contemporary. And as we continue to build the brand and people get to know who we are, I still sometimes say the Contemporary Theater of Ohio, formerly Catco. And if you've been in this community long enough, you go, oh yeah, I knew Catco. Someone last week said to me, well, I wonder whatever happened to them. Well, we are them. We are them, right? So it's not something we took lightly. We did a lot of videos, and there's still some talking points on our website about how we did it, why we did it. We made a video about the why. We really focused on the why. We talked to donors and subscribers, and I think people really accepted the change. I believe they liked the change. We didn't hear a lot of grumbling, or not like, the latest thing with Cracker Barrel, right? When they announced the new
Yeah.
logo and the
Yeah.
the world lost its mind. Thankfully, we
Yes, it
did
did.
not have any of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our patrons stayed strong, our donations stayed strong. So the key to that, I would say, from a leadership seat, is it was just very thoughtful and strategic and informed with data, and we listened to lots of opinions and lots of input, and then, worked with some smart consultants to help us put a plan in place.
Well, great. Well, it sounds like you had a lot of input, and I thought that was very interesting, for the community involvement. And I'm glad they now know that you're not a cat rescue place. That's
correct. Correct, right? It also helped the artists that we employ to be clear on their resumes, right? That they're working for a regional professional theater.
Yeah,
So it
I can
elevated
imagine
the
that.
presence. Again, Catco doesn't mean anything in New York City, right? But it's just a little higher stature for artists as they grow their careers too.
That's great. And what's the mission of the Contemporary?
Our mission and purpose is to tell stories rooted in the current moment to build empathy.
Okay.
And again, that came out of all that planning work. And it sounds, Vance, when we got to in the process, I was like, it seems so simple. It's not easy to implement, right?
Yeah.
But that's a bedrock. What I wanted to do was get us to a place where our value proposition was strong and hard to argue with. And I think it's hard to argue with building empathy in the community. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, we need to house people, we need to feed people. We need to make sure all those, those foundational needs on the Maslow's hierarchy are met. And then we can work on, right, empathy, or the academic and social emotional wellness of children, or, right, all that other stuff built on top of that. It's both and, we need it all. And so I have loved the empathy piece because I think it puts us on par with other nonprofits in the community who are also doing really important work.
All right. Well, it seems like, well, I'll tell you what, you kind of shared with us, how you got there, and, how you got with the organization. I appreciate that. But I wonder, like, beyond the stage, the theater has a strong focus on the community and education. What has been one personal moment that you've had while working with a student or maybe a community member that affirmed that your organization is on the right path? And then maybe you could share with us, has there been an obstacle that you've had to overcome also, maybe to get the community to go in its right direction?
Sure. Oh, no, Vance, there have been no obstacles.
I know that's so foreign to leadership, right?
What? Just when you think you've figured something out, the next thing pops up. I would say, yes, I know that we are making an impact in people's lives every day, whether it's in schools or in community centers with children or in our shows. We produce 5 productions for adults a year. We collect feedback from every one of those shows, and the stories are amazing. They're very heartfelt about what this work means to them. It really is hard to pick just one, but there are many, right? If it's children in schools, maybe they're finding their voice, they're speaking up for the first time, they're leading their peers in a small group, right? They're becoming more confident. That happens all the time in the schools. And I hope building more empathy. I would love to say, and we're starting to work on measuring empathy. You can measure empathy. But at the end of the school year, maybe if a classroom has had our program in it, the classroom is more empathetic. Those students relate differently to each other than they did otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And I guess this goes back to my personal fundamental belief, and I've been working on this for a long time, that the arts experiences, whether observing or experiencing, leave little seeds, little assets in each one of us, and we are changed in some way. And I have for years asked the question, I've asked people to tell me a personally meaningful arts experience. And I asked them where they were and who they were with and what it was and any sensory memories. And I have never met a person who couldn't tell me a story. I know that's never is a big world, but it's true. I've done it with rooms of hundreds of people, and I've done it with 10 people in a small group. And everybody has a story to share of some experience they had. Might not be their favorite, right? But it's the one that they found meaningful.
Mhm.
And I think it's our job, as I sit in the seat as a leader, it's my job to create the conditions for those experiences to happen. So again, there are hundreds. I don't always hear them all. I'm not in the lobby after every show, but I know we are making a difference in people's lives because we just can't help but do that. And there's also, just a sidebar, there's also a lot of neuroscience research coming out now about the arts, the effect on the brain and the body from the arts. It changes cortisone level and dopamine that you kind of can't help but be changed when you participate or observe in some way in the arts. Even we don't even know it, it's just happening in our brains, right? So I think that's really exciting, that the more research we get, the more we can prove the value proposition of the arts and the good it does in the community for people. Obstacles, there are many. Right? It's cutting through all the clutter in the media space and getting your message and your brand and building the brand and the message. It's funding. It's kind of always been fun. I mean, I've been in this business for 30 plus years, and I've never worked for a nonprofit, or especially in the arts, where we thought we had enough money. Yeah,
Mm.
maybe it's true in business too. I don't know, right? There's
Yeah.
never enough resources, but you're
Right.
innovative and creative and you make it work in service to the mission. So, those are obstacles. We're trying to build the ecosystem in Columbus so that more people can live, work, and play and make a living doing what they love, which is theater, right? We're not there yet in Columbus, but maybe we will be someday. That's part of our vision, is building the ecosystem.
Okay, that's good. Well, looking ahead, what do you hope that the legacy of the contemporary will be?
Oh, that's a great segue to what I just said, is that we have strengthened and built not only the theater ecosystem, but the arts ecosystem in the city, that
Uh-huh.
Columbus is recognized as a really cool place to experience the arts, right? There are places like that around the country. Surprisingly, Paducah, Kentucky has built a whole industry and tourism around the arts.
Okay.
Austin, like New York City, of course, Chicago, that Columbus is on par with all of that. And that live professional theater, like what we do here with local act, we have amazing talent in Columbus. And 90% of who we hire live and work right here in Columbus. And so that more artists and designers and directors and technicians can make their living making the arts in Columbus. That would be an amazing legacy for us.
All right. Well, how about for you personally? Would that be a great legacy for you? Because obviously that's going to take a lot of, I guess, so a thought leadership on that, right? To develop that ecosystem, to make the attraction and build the infrastructure for that. For you personally, what would you like to what would you like to see your piece be a part of that
I,
infrastructure building?
yeah, Vance, I thought this was such an interesting question when you sent it to me. And I often say, as an arts administrator, it is my job to clear the path for the artists and the creatives to do their very best work. My job is to manage the finances, raise the money, sell the tickets, handle the HR. So, I mean, as the administrative side, right? And
Right.
it's Leah's job to create the artistic vision and choose the plays and hire the actors and all of that, right? That's how we divide our duties.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking about my legacy would be that I would be remembered for doing that, clearing the path so that more artists and creatives could do their very best work and impact the community in a whole host of ways. I think that would be a pretty nice legacy.
Yeah, that would be. Just I guess maybe, I don't know, bouncing off that just a little bit. It seems like it would require education of those like myself that's not really involved in the arts of Columbus, right?
Uh-huh.
That it would attract me and other people in Columbus to to come and partake of the arts. Is there any discussion around that? Like how to, I mean, I know it's marketing and those type of things, but has anyone in your circle, or I'm sure you guys probably talk about that all the time?
We do talk about that all the time. And it's finding out, like, I won't interrogate you on this podcast, but I would have a lot of questions for you, like, why not? What would entice you to try it, right? We know when I worked on that national study of jazz ticket buyers, we had a hypothesis that people would only buy tickets to things they already knew and loved. So if you've seen a particular musician 18 times, you keep going back to see that, right? It turns out people will try new artistic experiences. And there are a couple of things that have to be in place. Now, that project was 2009 to 2012, but I still think it's relevant. That if someone invited you who you know, like, or trust and would serve as your guide, you might say yes and go.
I can answer
Or
that.
if you could sample it first, if you could
Yeah.
sample the work first.
Yeah.
So to address those kinds of things, one of the things we do is we make a trailer for every show, a video trailer, 60 seconds or less. And we put that on our website and on social media and kind of market that far and wide. So you could just get a little taste of what you're in for, what the story is about. We build out the show pages for every show. You can see who's in them and what they care, what their bios are and what they care, and so I think if you felt like you would see people like yourself in our theater, you might be more likely to give it a try. Or if you could come with someone who already loves us and brought you along, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I won't say that I never partake of the arts because I do. My son has bought us tickets to the theater, and I can't remember the show that we went, but it was around the holiday times. And we have friends, pipers, but Bruce actually teaches that. We're buying a pianist. But yeah, Bruce Piper and his son's there too. So they're a really theatrical family. And so we have gone and seen plays with them because that's their thing. And if they were to ask us today, hey, there's a play going on, we probably would go with them. And I would do that more often, with that invitation than maybe on my own. But I do look at shows, and it's usually years in between when I go. But anyway, the podcast's not about me. But
well, you have an open invitation to the Contemporary Advance. You let me know when you want to come see something.
Okay, I will do that. I will do that. Well, I tell you what, Ian, what is one thing about the theater or leadership that you wish more people understood? And what role do you see yourself playing in changing that perception?
Yeah, for sure. I wish that people in Columbus better understood the difference between presenting and producing the arts. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I don't know if you probably don't know the difference.
I do not know.
Presenting is when you bring something in from usually made out of town, and it's one night only or 3 nights only or 3 weeks. So in the theater world, that's the Broadway series at the Ohio Theater. That's a truck and bus tour, and those actors come through, they play for 3 weeks, and then they're on the bus and off to the next town. And that is really important to the ecosystem. We need that. Or it's the big arena show at Nationwide Arena, or it's somebody that's at the Newport up on, whatever. It's a one night only, generally, or a few nights. And those actors aren't from here, and they're coming through Columbus, and then they're gone. Producing, which is what most of a lot of the arts is in Columbus. It's us and Pro Musica and the opera, and right, we are hiring actors, many of them right here in Central Ohio. And in our case, we rehearse for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we run a show for 3 weeks. So for 6 to 7 weeks, we are employing actors, designers, costumers, lighting designers, technicians, right, to make a play, right? It's a whole creative process. And the majority of the money that those actors are paid stays right here in Central Ohio. So we are building the economy, the creative economy in the city. And in our case, we hire more than 100 creative workers every year, which I think is amazing. We are about $1 million organization. We got 5 full-time staff members. But in the course of a year, to produce 5 plays and do all our educational work, we are north of 100 or 125 people that we hire and employ and pay. Everybody, that's professional theater means everybody gets paid.
All right.
And,
Well,
and
that's good.
to work with us. I'm not saying it's great. You're not going to get rich off
Yeah.
of it, but if you love theater and this is your craft, you will get paid if you work at the Contemporary. And my role in that is constantly advocating, sharing that story, helping people understand what I just told you, right? Blog
Yeah.
posts, podcasts, articles that, articles on our e-news. It's getting people to understand how we build the creative sector in Columbus, which will be good for us economically and socially and emotionally and all things.
All right. And again, that was to produce a show or promote the show?
Or present a show.
Present. I like that. I did not know. I'm glad you shared the difference. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes presenting and promoting get used interchangeably. Music, commercial music promoters talk about music promotion, right?
Yeah.
But producing is the one that's kind of locally grown. Sometimes I have the analogy to craft beer, right? It's brewed here, right? The creative
Okay. Hmm.
performance is made right here in the city.
That's great. Okay. Well, how can our listeners get involved and help out?
Yeah, so many ways. So visit our website, thecontemporaryohio.org, and there you'll find information about all of our upcoming shows and some of our past shows. We just started first rehearsals last night for a new show called The Roommate, which is hysterical. And then we'll produce all the way through May. Will be our last. We're kind of a school year season, so September to May.
Okay.
Information out there about our education programs, which we produce in various places around the city, the Rife Center, the Columbus Performing Arts Center, McConnell Arts Center, and then other community-based organizations. We do residencies in schools. So if you have a kiddo in school and you think we need some more arts in my kid's school, you might contact the principal or teacher and see if there isn't a partner. We can build a partnership with that school. We have opportunities to volunteer. We need 3 or 4 ushers for every one of our plays. And so you could sign up to usher, and yeah, people who usher get to see the play for free. So there's a little perk.
Yeah.
Come try something out. But all those, and of course, we're always open to donations. I talked about the funding is always a challenge. Ticket sales only cover about 60% of our revenue. So contributed revenue from donations and grants and sponsorships make up the rest of the financial model. So we're always grateful for partnerships like that. And that's all on our website.
Okay, great, great. And I don't know if you still do any mentoring and leadership or provide any leadership training. Is that something that you still involved with?
I do sometimes as a consultant. Yep.
Okay.
I was with a group of students at Otterbein just a couple of weeks ago in kind of a mentorship capacity. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love to connect people and help, kind of help the next generation. I was so fortunate to have mentorship and people sponsor me up through the years that I love doing that. One of my superpowers is actually connecting people. And so I love doing that. And you can find me I'm on LinkedIn. Strategic Links has a website, strategiclinks.org. My email, I'm very Googleable, Van, so you can
Okay. All right. Well, good. So, yeah, in case any of our listeners like to get in touch with you about leadership training, and I wish we had more time to talk about the mentoring with your first job there, or the person that mentored you first.
Mhm.
I'd love to hear some of the valuable nuggets you got from that experience.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe if you could close with one, how important is it, in a mentoring relationship, you have to be coachable, right? So maybe you hear some things like it's not always positive, or maybe what we as individuals take as positive. When we're told we've done something wrong, we usually take that as a negative. Is that the correct way that we should view that type of experience?
Not if you want to grow, right? In my
Yeah.
opinion, if you
Mhm.
want to grow as an individual, as a professional, as a leader, you have to really be open to all of that, right? One of my early leadership training experiences back in about 2003, we worked a lot on finding our leadership voice. There's a great book called Leadership Jazz by Max Dupre, and he talks about finding your leadership voice. So what are your core values? What do you stand for? What are your beliefs? What are your non-negotiables? And being clear about that. And then I would categorize myself as a servant leader, a participant leader, and I let those values kind of guide those decisions, right? And I am open to feedback. I do not want to be that person that people are afraid to tell the truth to. Like, I can't get better if that's the case, right? And I would say the last thing is, I told this to the group of students a couple weeks ago at Otterbein, is stay curious. I have always been, as I look back on it now, I have always been curious in my professional and leadership journey. Like, where can I learn more? Who can I surround myself who's smarter than me? And, being open to that. We have to have a team around us that, there are people who are better at things that I'm not good at. And so where are those people who can support me in that role, all for the betterment of the organization that I'm with at the time?
Well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you for coming on to the show today and sharing with us, and we really appreciate it. And I want to thank our listeners for listening in. And like I told you, it is the incredible Christy Farnbauch, and she has shared some nice pearls of wisdom with us. So I hope you will look at supporting the Contemporary Theater of Ohio, and you can get connected with them or Christy, and you can go to the website, thecontemporaryohio.org, and that's thecontemporaryohio.org, and we'll put a link in the show notes to that. But again, Christy, I just want to thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a rest of a good day.
Yeah, thank you, Vance. Again, thank you for reaching out and having us on. Really, really appreciate it. And I'll see you at the theater soon, maybe, right?
Yeah, that's right. All righty. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.